Welcome back, everybody, to your daily dose of Diablo. My name is Mr. Llama SC, and today we're going to be diving a little bit further into David Brevik's thoughts. Now, David Brevik, one of the original creators of Diablo and Diablo 2, who then went on to go create a bunch of other games and has his own studio and everything now. Lots of fun stuff there. Would love to talk with him in the future. David, hit me up. Let's do a thing. But we do have a interview that he did with the, Video Gamer Podcast. New Video Gamer Podcast. So they have a whole interview. I will link it down below. It's like an hour, 20 minutes or so, something like that. And it talks through some of the basic stuff that we always have heard. I mean, again, I say always. Maybe you haven't. Brevik has done multiple interviews where he's discussed, what it was like in the early stages, stuff that's happened with Diablo, the other games that he's, worked on, how he got into game dev, those sorts of things. So it is very interesting. I always love hearing it. But this is the pieces I'm going to focus on are a little bit more around kind of like Diablo 3, Diablo 4, kind of speed of game, different pieces that he talks about in like the later half of the interview, I would say. Anyways, let us dive in. So some of the first things that I want to bring up with it were the old Diablo 3 MMO, right? So in Blizzard at the time, way back when, after they made Diablo 2, obviously it was a big success. They made Lord of Destruction, also a big success. Why can't I say success? Everything was great. And then they were working and preparing to make Diablo 3 before they everything got scrapped and Blizzard kind of changed and everything adjusted. And then the new team came in and made Diablo 3 we know today. But here was kind of the idea with old Diablo 3.
Yeah, absolutely. But it wasn't just an MMO. It was going to be an ARPG.
Yeah.
With the same perspective and all of those kind of things.
So he was being asked, was Diablo 3 going to be an MMO?
But just an MMO in terms of people in the world, and you're running around the world and you see other people kind of thing, and you could like group up and you were on a shard and you had like, there were dungeons and things like that. Like it was much more like a cross between sort of like a World of Warcraft, but Diablo mix or whatever.
Which, God, I mean, that's all I've ever wanted is a World of Warcraft Diablo, if I'm going to be honest.
Like, so that
it was kind of what you ended up doing with Marvel Heroes. Because that was
sort of. That was definitely a step in the same direction, but we didn't have. There were a lot of reasons why it wasn't fully what we wanted to do with the Diablo series or whatever. There were other things that we were going to do that we never had the opportunity to do in Marvel Heroes because of a lot of the restrictions with IP and timing and funding and things like that made it so that some of those dreams never became real.
I mean, that's one of the things, multiple thoughts on that. Number one, of course, with like Marvel Heroes and stuff, like when you worked for Blizzard, one of the really nice things is you kind of just had all that funding. You had that time. You had, especially Blizzard of old, right? They were like, it will be ready when it is ready. And then they would release these amazing, polished games that were just superior to what else was out there because they took the time and they, put the love and everything like that into it. This is probably my biggest thing I'm upset with in gaming and life is that we did not get this World of Warcraft, Diablo, MMO, ARPG vision that Brevik and the old team had. And instead we got the D3 of today. That is probably one of my biggest sadnesses, I would say, complaints, is that we did not get that because, Oh, it would have been so good. You just know it would have been so good. So that was his thoughts on D3 MMO. And then they chat a little bit more, and something was brought up. He said, so you've played like Diablo 4 now, and Diablo 4 is an MMO. What are your thoughts there?
I think it ends up being different. I would have made different decisions than they made. Like, I think a lot comes down to the way that they do itemization, or the way that they do their characters and things like that were kind of different directions than I think that I was focused on. And I want more of kind of like I think that one of the things that is most important about a particular MMO are the social aspects, and I think that focusing more on the social aspects of the MMO, or things that from a game design perspective, encouraging social interactions is something that I think that I would have really leaned into.
And I think that is a beautiful answer. And honestly, that right there as well goes to my biggest disappointment of Diablo 4. If somebody asked me, how would you have designed Diablo 4 differently? But whatever the pieces were, I would have said, yeah, I would have done the items differently. I would have done, right? There's a lot of all of these, and I've discussed those, at length and whatever. But I think what really it boiled down to for me was it was the loneliest MMO I've ever experienced in my life. It is a single player MMO, and it just felt wrong. It felt like it was just missing because of that. And that's something that David very clearly addresses right there. And I think, is extremely smart and accurate about. When you're making an MMO, you need to lean into the social features. Because if you go back and look at all of the great MMOs, they're not isolated experiences. They are very much about the the massive multiplayer. We have all these people and we can exist all together, and the world is hustling and bustling, and you see everybody around, and there's, of course, you've got all your trade and all these things, but it's like the interaction and the role playing and, just going in the pub and hanging out, or going and trading under the tunnel, or just like whatever the stuff was, the spaces became occupied and filled with people, and it was a world. And you felt like you could come from your, I'd be alone in my apartment, and then I could go into this world, and now I have friends all of a sudden. Well, I have friends in real life. That sounds like I don't. Whatever. You can have your online friends, but be in this expansive world where there's all of just everything, right? And I think the more that you lean into that, the more success that you really will have in an MMO, in my opinion, right? It's like you need to create that space. Yes, you need to have a fun game. Yes, you need to have good itemization. Yes, you need to have all these things. But if Diablo 4 still had all of its other problems, but was an immersive social experience, I think my enjoyment of it would have quadrupled at least. Like, you know what? Yeah, it's kind of whatever, but I still get to go join up with a bunch of random people in the world, and then we're actually clearing and doing stuff together, and there's this fun place to go hang out and play this, and I would have absolutely enjoyed it so much more. But to go in, it was just it was so isolating. It was insane. So I think that he's 100% dead spot on with that. And the one place that Diablo 4 had MMO experience was the world bosses, and that was one of the most underwhelming parts of the game. But that was actually a fun, cool experience. Oh, there's a world boss that's just gonna appear, and you just run over there, and then there's just a bunch of other people, and you all just fight this world boss. but that was it. I felt like the only place that they actually had that. I felt like if that existed all throughout the world and the world actually became a place I wanted to explore and be around and all that stuff, it could have been a lot different. But this isn't a Diablo 4 hate video. This is just, discussing those thoughts on that thing. Speed of the game was the next piece brought in by Brevik and that they talked about. And he said, what are your thoughts on, kind of the current state of speed of the game? And here's kind of what he has to say.
Leveling in the current version of Diablo 3 is incredibly fast. Like, you go from level 1 to 70 in about 3 or 4 hours. So I guess my question there is, was your version of Diablo 3 fast-paced like that, or was it going to be the grind of Diablo 2?
No. I think that ARPGs in general have started to lean into this kill swaths of enemies all over the place, extremely quickly. Your build is killing all sorts of stuff so you could get more drops, so you can level up, so you can and the screen is littered with stuff you don't care about, and there's just gobs of corpses and stuff, and that's not really, I don't find that as kind of personal and realistic as like Diablo 2. The pacing on Diablo 2, I think, is great, and that's one of the reasons it's endured.
I think it's almost perfect.
Right, exactly.
If I can,
kidding, it is.
like, be just like a snobbling fan for a bit.
No, that it's true. Like, I just don't find killing screenfuls of things instantly and mowing stuff down and walking around a level and killing everything very enticing. I just don't feel like that is a cool experience. I find it kind of silly. And so, I think that MMOs have definitely pushed in that direction. Like, how fast can you level? How fast can you kill everything? And it's all about speed and things like that. But in reality, I just think that makes a kind of a worse experience. And I tend to shy away from that direction. I want to, the fun of any kind of ARPG actually isn't getting to the end. It's the journey, right? And so when you're shortening that journey and making it kind of ridiculous, you cheapen the entire experience, in my opinion.
I mean, I think that is a beautiful quote in multiple spaces of it, right? And it's not just in ARPGs; it's happening in many games. I think there's a few pieces. Number one, the final bit, the destination is not. It's not the destination; it's the journey. I mean, that's true with like everything in life, right? They've done lots of studies on the happiness of people and what they enjoy and all of that stuff, and people who get everything they want versus the people who enjoy the journey to there. And it's always that the journey is the what it is in life that provides the happiness, right? The struggle, and that's always, I've said this as well to many people. When people say like, oh, I don't know what to do, I'm not sure what, do I want to go and be a master at the piano, or do I want to go and be whatever it is? And you have to find what is fun to struggle. What are your fun struggles in life? And those are the things that you should go do, essentially, because it's all the journey, right? I want to be really good at piano, but I don't like practicing piano enough. I don't enjoy the experience. Sometimes I do, but like overall, I don't enjoy it enough that I'm like constantly wanting to go do it. So if I don't like that journey, then whatever. If I just get to the end and I'm a master, it's like, no, you don't do it, right? It's like, find something you do enjoy, right? Find the struggles you do enjoy in life. So, I do enjoy, like practicing being a goalie in hockey. And so that's something that I go and, I'm taking lessons and these sorts of things, and I enjoy it. And I get excited to go and practice and learn and all that, right? That's just general life advice, is when you think about stuff you actually want to do in your life, think about the struggles that you enjoy, because and the trainings and all of those things, because that's the important piece. But it's the same a little bit with the games as well, right? Find the games, and within the games, it is the journey through the game that is actually really the fun part. And it's not just getting to the end and then having all the pieces, but how you got there and all of that, which is why things like Hero Editor and all of that kind of break the enjoyment if you abuse them. Because yes, I could just go and hero edit my character to 99 and give them all the best gear in the game, and then I'm done. And then, all right, well, now what, right? Like then it's over. So it's like, that's not fun. But if your goal is to just be the most powerful, but you don't want to like actually level to get there and do all that stuff, then maybe you should go play a different game, is honestly the answer. So I think he has a great point there about the experience being cheapened with all of these games rushing through, just pushing you to the end, leveling you as fast as possible, not having really like much of an experience along the way. And I think that's a good point. And then also just kind of the general speed of game. The other thing he says that really resonated with me is that it doesn't feel personal. I thought it was a strange word at first, but then later I was like, that's kind of the best word. It doesn't feel personal. Like your experience doesn't feel personal because it doesn't feel like you actually get to create an experience. If everything's just blowing up and the screens are just a mess and you're just flying through whatever, then it's just like, random trash in and out, not memorable, any of that stuff. Whereas if you're having these grindier, slower interactions and these fights that are more meaningful a little bit, then you're getting a more personal experience and there's more that you can remember from it and stuff. So I really loved his word on that. And that was something that, I thought he did a really nice job explaining as well. So I've put together a couple of, let me go over here. Couple of like games so we can just look at some of the modern ARPGs that do exist and such. So this is Diablo 4 right here. And kind of latest Diablo 4 engagements and such, which not as fast, but a thing. Looks like a disaster mess. Yeah, I mean, it's like just messy. Best way to say it. You can remove the numbers on the screen and stuff, but like it does feel kind of messy, right? Here we have Diablo 3. So again, just kind of maybe a little faster, but the colors and the spam. And again, I don't feel like I'm getting any bit of a personal experience. Next, we have Last Epoch. Hold on. How do I go to that? Gosh, dang it. What the? Sorry about that. Why is that there? So like here's Last Epoch currently, which honestly I feel like Last Epoch's not actually as bad. How do I maximize that? There we go. That's way better. Like in terms of speed and such, again, it kind of has a Diablo 4 feeling to it in its interaction there. I just kind of grabbed a random build going around and stuff. Obviously, I don't love the like just moving skills and pieces, but it's not quite moving as fast. Here we have Path of Exile 2. This is Darth microtransactions. hardcore solo self-found build. And again, this is PoE 2, which the idea of PoE 2 is supposed to be that it's like slowing down from PoE 1 and fixing kind of the lack of personal experience. And I feel like we're still kind of like it's I don't know. And then we have Path of Exile 1, which I guess technically they were slowing down. Path of Exile 1. So I suppose that it was actually slowed down from it. But again, what are we doing? So, like, I completely agree with Brevik's takes here on this. And I feel like this really is one of the biggest things that is plaguing the current ARPG scene is zoom, 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 1 versus 1,000. Everything blows up. You can't tell me what any of the monsters are that you see right there. There's numbers that every animation is flashing on top of each other. You have 500 colors at the same time. It's like going through each one of those, just like they all look ugly to me. And maybe I'm just old man yelling at the sky, and that's probably fine. Like I'm probably just old man who yells at sky a little bit. But oh man, it does kind of feel exhausting with a lot of these newer games, right? That is literally 5 different games right there that we've had, starting from D3, D4, Last Epoch, PoE 1, PoE 2, and none of those looked good to me in any capacity. None of them had really personal experiences, anything like that. So I do feel like that is a problem. And, even for me, like D2 Endgame starts to get a little too fast, which is why I love to speedrun Diablo 2, do guided playthroughs of Diablo 2, right? Like you see me play through the base of the game and play through the game over and over again. Because I love that part of the experience where it's actually like, tough and you're actually going through and you're doing that. And you get a little bit of that with, like PoE 2, you can have some of that and stuff. I didn't feel like I really got that in like D3, D4 or anything, but there is, there can be some nice methodical, good experiences in your earlier pieces of your playthroughs of games. But when games start to really focus so much on the end game, when it is the God mode character, and then it just becomes rush to get your character there and all of this, it always devolves into just this nonsense, I feel like, that we see today, right? So, yes, D2 Endgame has problems of speed, but not in this capacity even, right? It's like, you do have it. Mosaic Assassin is clearly the worst offender, and that's the most recent edition, and I hope they remove it or whatever and adjust it. But taking that piece out, like, you do have still experience with it of, I can tell you what any of the monsters are that I telly and go to like drop a blizzard on, and there is a little bit of time in between, and you've got these cast frames and different things that do still slow the game down in some capacity, as opposed to what I feel like we do see with a lot of these modern games where none of that stuff really seems to exist. It's just fly through, just run, everything explodes, just spin, everything explodes, whatever it is. So I do feel like there is still more meaning even in D2's endgame, even with the godly characters that can be super stacked. Again, Mosaic Assassin is the worst offender by far. So that was kind of the biggest piece there. And then the last thing that Brevik talked about that I thought was interesting is about finishing games, because he said, how do you feel about kind of like live service games and you know, games that just kind of continue on and on?
I'm still a firm believer in, I think it's great when uh, there's for a free to play game. It's I know what I'm getting myself into as a live service game or a free to play game, something like that. I understand as a gamer, I'm if I'm going to play a mobile game, I know what it's going to be like. I'm going to play it free. It's going to be slow. It's going to be grindy, et cetera, et cetera. I kind of know what I'm getting myself into. But the games that I prefer to play, or the games I play the most, I think are probably games that are experiences where I play it and I finish it. And I'm not interested in playing, like I played EverQuest and World of Warcraft and other games like that, these live service games, where that was all I played literally every day for years. And I missed out on a lot of cool things. And so I want more experiences than being stuck in one particular game forever. And so for me as a gamer, I relate more now to games where I get to play it and it's I'm done and I can walk away, and maybe there's an expansion or whatever, some new thing that I would come back for or whatever, new DLC or something. But I love that experience of playing through it, experiencing the whole game. There's so many games and so many things I want to play that I kind of don't want to be stuck on anything. I want to kind of diversify my play style and play a bunch of different products.
I think it's a very interesting take, on it right there. And I do think that's something I would say for me, it's less about I need an experience to end, but more I want the journey through the game to be more, have more focus and be more exciting, right? Like that is what I love about Diablo 1, what I love about Diablo 2, what I love about, so many older games, is that there is a lot of focus on your Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, right? Or whatever it is, even, just whatever game, right? Like the experience of going from start to the first end or whatever it is great. And then if there is an expansion or something beyond, it's fantastic. But where we're getting with a lot of games is that start is just kind of trash and then like doesn't matter, and then it the focus goes to the end game. The focus immediately is just like, let's go there, right? And in Diablo 4 you can just like skip the campaign, right? You just click a button and it's like, I'm not doing campaign anymore, and then you're just at the end, and then it's now the game opens up and it's all of this. And I really wish that there was so much focus again on making the game so wonderful that you wouldn't want to skip it, right? Like, let's go back and we can go to a different genre and whatever, but let's say you go to like Legend of Zelda or whatever it is, and then they add some like end game DLC for Legend of Zelda. I wouldn't want to like skip the whole play of the game, right? Like I will go back and play through the entirety of Legend of Zelda again, whichever one, because it's super fun. And then I could do, whatever the extra content is after that or whatever. But like, if you just had that and it's like, just skip that, it's boring, I feel like that'd be really detrimental and it'd be really sad. But they wouldn't, because it's so fun to play through it. That's like such a great piece of it. And I feel like it cheapens games overall, because when I go back and again think back on all the amazing games that I've played through, that many do just, come to a natural end because there wasn't as much of the expansions or end game or whatever, they kind of have like set experiences that I can get really nostalgic about, that I can go play 15 years down the line and I still get that same experience and all of, just like oh, it just brings me back, and I remember this, and oh, there was that over there, and like just so many great things. And I feel like now with all these live service games, you don't get that. Like if I try and reminisce about the Path of Exile I played in 2012 or whatever, that's gone. That just doesn't exist, right? Like it's just, you have Path of Exile of now, which is not something I enjoy. And so I do feel, that there's a lot of cheapening and lost beauty of old games that were just set, start, finish, and kind of exist in time, and you can go back to them and see them again and play them again and do all these things, by these games that just ever adapt and ever change. And they just kind of become lost in that past. And so whatever it is now is what it is, right? And that's why classic World of Warcraft was such a hit, because it didn't exist anymore. And then they brought it back, and then it existed again. And everybody got to go back and be like, yes, World of Warcraft that isn't retail, like, oh, it's the experience that I loved and wanted. And so, it's sad, right? It's kind of sad, I think, what we have today, with many games and such. And there's always going to be people who want to rush through and get to the end and all of this, right? Like that's always the case. But when games are so focused there as well, I think a lot of early game and campaign and playthrough just kind of disintegrates, and the game kind of just becomes lost, and it's just a mush of just like throw it, hope players come and play for a bit before they move on to the next thing, and then you throw the next thing at them and try, we just get in these loops that we have today. And it doesn't feel like we have like just like cool, awesome quality products that are like really beautiful sitting there, but rather just like whatever we can throw to just catch people's attention for a few weeks at a time, so anyways, that is your daily dose of Diablo. I thought this was a really cool interview. There's more stuff they talk about. Again, they talk more about his journey and game dev and, some other stuff. But I thought those were some four of the parts that I really felt were like, good to bring over for the daily dose. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, YouTube. Peace, everybody.